Welcome back to Viewpoint. I'm Jim Zogby. My next guest is Ambassador Hussein Hassouna. He's Chief Representative of the League of Arab States to the U.S. He's held a number of positions in his long and distinguished diplomatic career for Egypt, including the Arab League Ambassador to the UN, Ambassador to Morocco, Ambassador to Yugoslavia, and a member of the Egyptian delegation to several of the Middle East peace negotiations. Thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
I want to actually, if I could, start with your time in Yugoslavia. The years were at the time of the most intense fighting there. Ultimately, the Clinton administration came in, and at the very time that you left, the U.S. becomes involved in an effort to save the situation in Bosnia. Tell me a little about what you saw while you were there and what position the Arab League took with regard to the violence in Bosnia.
Well, I was ambassador of Egypt to Yugoslavia. I was appointed there when Yugoslavia was president of the non-aligned movement. It is a movement that was created by an Egyptian leader, Gamal Abdel Nasser, was President Tito, and Prime Minister Nehru. So I had an important role to play there. I spent 3 years. And I witnessed the disintegration of Yugoslavia, which was very sad for me as a diplomat, of course. It was a federation that was very prosperous, but I think it was affected by the collapse of the Eastern Bloc, and the different part of this federation started seceding, first Slovenia, then Croatia, then Bosnia. And I witnessed a terrible civil strife, and all all these feelings that have existed over the years, although Tito managed to get them together, all of a sudden it exploded. And it was very, very tragic. And the ambassadors, including me, we were withdrawn in 48 hours, so it was a personal hardship for us. But slowly and slowly, the United States, as you mentioned, got involved, but not from the very beginning. They left it to the Europeans. They said this is a European problem. And it is only when the slaughter really increased, when the Bosnians really felt besieged by the Serbs, that the United States got involved.
Yeah, Jim Baker refused to, and Clinton got dragged in rather unwillingly at first.
Exactly, but there was a pressure mounting from all over the world,
yeah.
And the Muslim world, of course, was also very concerned about the fate.
One thing about the Bosnian situation that always troubles me is I remember having a discussion with folks about Syria and them, warning or worrying about sectarian strife in Syria, and them saying, no, 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 it'll never happen here. It's not our culture. And I remember Sarajevo and the way at the time of the Winter Olympics it was celebrated as this incredibly diverse country and the city where all these ethnic and religious communities coexisted and intermarried, and it can happen anywhere.
It can. It certainly can.
Yeah.
I mean, I think societies are fragile.
Yeah.
I think there are root problems to all this. It's not just political. Sometimes there are political issues. Religion sometimes is exploited by politicians. But the economic factors are also very important sometimes. Even in Yugoslavia, you had the northern republics that were much richer than the southern ones, and there was friction between them all of a sudden. So it's a complex factor that led to this explosion.
You were at the UN for 5 years, and then you came here to Washington for the last 10. Actually.
Yes.
And you're going to be retiring. And I want to ask you, one thing that I've noted was that the U.S. doesn't recognize the Arab League with full diplomatic status. Has that made your time here difficult? Has it impeded your ability to operate? And how has the U.S. relationship to the Arab League changed in the time that you're here?
Well, it hasn't impeded my activities, because I used to be also here about 30 years ago, political counsel of the Egyptian embassy. So I have many friends, and I've been accepted. I had always meetings, State Department, White House, Congress, no problem. But our office, as you said, has never been granted diplomatic status. and have been trying to correct this. They have been telling me that the United States only recognizes the organizations where it is a member or an observer member. It's not the case of the League. But on the other hand, they have recognized the African Union. They have recognized the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. So to be honest with you, I think the Arab League for many years was still perceived as an organization that was too harsh on Israel. And this is the reason, in my view, that the administration never went to Congress, because Congress has to approve this diplomatic status, and that is why we never got this recognition. I think that now it should be perceived as an organization that has put a peace initiative on settling the Israeli problem, that has taken a new dimension in supporting the claims and the aspirations of the people in the region. So I think it's about time that the United States upgrades, if you want, or changes the status of the League in order to enhance its cooperation, because there was a de facto cooperation between officials of the League and U.S. administration and officials, but legally they never granted us this
I want to
status.
ask you about this, the new assertiveness of the Arab League. We saw it actually with the Libya situation initially. There are two views that get expressed. One is that it's a response to the Arab Spring and a responsiveness to this demand for greater freedom and opportunity. And on the other hand, there's some who are less positive and say that it's a score-settling effort. Libya had always been a pain, and Gaddafi had been very problematic for the Arab League. And there are those who say that there's a kind of a reactionary aspect to it in picking the countries that they'll get behind and support, and then ignoring the ones that they choose not to. Respond to that, if you would, about this, number one, the new assertiveness, and number two, what is, from your sense, what's behind that?
Well, first of all, the Arab League has always faced tremendous challenges and difficulties, divisions among its members, adoption of resolutions that were not implemented, bureaucracy, financial problems. But this is not something particular to the Arab League. I think it's also inherent in any organization, in other regional organizations, even the United Nations. But the Arab League, in spite of this, has lived up to the expectations of the Arab people. All main initiatives in the region have been taken within the framework of the Arab League. And now I think it is reflecting the new spirit that is in the region. I think you can say that it is reflecting the aspiration of the people, the call for respect for human rights, the call for freedom of expression, the call for respect for the individual, for human dignity, and so on. And I think it is moving in this direction. I think there's still a lot to be done. For instance, I think that civil society should be more involved in the function of the League. I also think that the Arab League, although it has adopted a Charter of Human Rights, should have an Arab Court on human rights to enforce the respect for human rights. On Libya, I think the Arab League was moved by the threat of Gaddafi against the population of Libya. It went on without the Arab League calling for a no-fly zone. The Security Council would never have adopted Resolution 1973 that imposed a no-fly zone. There wouldn't have been an international intervention. So the Arab League was very instrumental in all this. And again, in Syria, it's the same thing. The Arab League, again, has presented to the Syrian government a plan that is calling for a cessation of violence, for the withdrawal of the forces from the cities, for a release of political prisoners, and then for a dialogue between the government and the opposition. It has sent, as you know, the observers. They have been there for some years, for some time now. They will report to the Arab League that will then consider other steps, either to refer the issue to Security Council, or if things move in the right direction, maybe to start sponsoring this long-awaited dialogue between the Syrian government and the opposition.
If you want to get in the conversation, give us a call. If you're calling from overseas, the number is 001-202-420-5665. Here in the U.S., it's 1-202-420-5730. About the Syria situation, the observers are there. I saw the initial proposal. I saw what the Syrians amended it to be, and I see what it is today. Can it be, is there enough there to be effective in any way? Or is this just more buying time by the regime and the Arab League providing the regime's time that it wants?
I don't think the Arab regime is trying to provide the regime with time. I think the Arab League is trying to deploy efforts that can diffuse the crisis, that can bring about a stopping of the killing and restoring peace and security to Syria and protect the civilian population. I think it's difficult. I think it's not fair to judge the outcome from now. We have to give it more time. The observers just went there a few days ago. They are still have to report to the Arab League, and then the Arab League will assess the whole situation and will take the steps necessary. But to say from now that it's a failure, that it is helping the Syrian government and so on, in my view, this is not the right approach to take.
The enforcement mechanism that the Arab League has it consists of what? Broader Arab sanctions, one. Go to the UN, two. Is there anything else that the Arab League can actually do?
Well, already the Arab League has suspended the participation of Syria in its activities. It has also imposed economic sanctions against Syria. It can refer the issue to the Security Council that can support the Arab initiative and could impose its own sanctions. So there are a variety of options for the Arab League, but we still hope that the Syrian government will cooperate with the efforts of the League. And I think the American administration is supporting the efforts of the League and is hoping that it will succeed.
Let's go to Saudi Arabia for a call. Caller? Hello?
Yes, hello, sir.
Hi, your question.
My question is about sending the general from Sudan. He's already convicted in the international court to Syria to see all the revolution coming out to Syria, and he's coming out to TV and he's saying there is nothing in Syria.
Yeah, thank you for the question. There have been some concerns that the head of the delegation is the head of former head of intelligence from Sudan. He has not been indicted, but his boss obviously has. There's a question about his role and how serious this whether this impacts the effort. Comment if you could.
Well, of course, I don't know him personally, but from what I heard from officials in the Arab League, he's one of the most competent military experts, and that's why he was picked up. As you said, he was not indicted. He was head of the intelligence. Of course, he has experience from dealing with the issue of Darfur and other issues in the Sudan. People say that he's doing his job in a very objective way. So this is what I hear from the officials of the League.
What is your biggest concern right now? You heard some of the discussion with Rob about the Arab Spring and where it's going and maybe where it's not going yet. Well, what's your biggest concern, your biggest worry about in the short term in the Arab world?
Well, I think we are seeing some historic transformations in the region. I think in the long run it's a very positive development. All I fear is in this transition period there might be more violence somehow, more uncertainty, but in the long run I think we will have societies that are based more on the rule of law, on more transparency, accountability, respect for human rights, and this is very much needed.
Okay, let me take a call from Nebraska. That'll be our last call in this segment. Caller, your question.
Yes, my question about the Arab League for the human rights and the freedom of the Palestinian people. I don't see the Arab League do anything for Gaza and for the occupied territory.
Yeah.
you know, it seems that...
okay, I'm going to stop you there because we're running out of time in the segment, but there is that concern that, as you said in the beginning, resolutions passed and not acted upon, etc.
Well, I think the Arab League has been supporting the Palestinian people in their struggle for self-determination, independence. It has supported them at the United Nations. It has helped them even financially. It has given them financial support. You know, Egypt has hosted meetings between the different factions, and we hope that there will be some kind of reconciliation between the different factions of the Palestinians. So the Palestinians themselves have not done anything either on the regional level or the international level now without the backing of the Arab League, because the backing of 22 countries means much more if the Palestinians go alone and try to for instance, to join international organizations like they have done in joining UNESCO lately and so on. So the Arab League is supporting the Palestinians politically, also economically, and psychologically, and this is very important.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your 10 years here in Washington.
Well, I must tell you, I live with mixed feelings. I have developed so many good relations with the United States, with many friends like you, with the Arab American community. But I'm also looking forward to my next phase in my life. I will go back to Egypt, where I think I can contribute to the building of the new Egypt and a better society, and also to share my knowledge with the young generation in the different fields I know, like international law and political science.
Thank you for joining us. Up next, a look at this year's top 10 wackiest congressional actions on the Middle East. We'll do it with Lara Friedman.